Clipse just dropped a brand new album, Let God Sort 'Em Out. And to be honest with you, I think it's a great return to form for the duo. We're talking 16 years in the making that we've had a project from the brothers. And I think that with them returning with Pharrell on the production, they're giving us something that's not only timeless, but it shows you that hip hop is not just a young man's game. All right, so just a little rundown on my history of listening to the Clipse. When they first got on my radar, had to be back in the early 2000s, and I first heard them on a track from Jermaine Dupri's album called Instructions. And one of the records on it was featuring Clipse. And the name of the song was called Let's Talk About It. And when the song first come on, it come on with the verse, it say, question, ask any nigga, rapper or hustler, who rocks is bigger, the rapper? Nah, dog, go figure. And I remember thinking like, who are these guys, right? You know, of course, you look in the booklet, you see Clipse, but I wouldn't hear from him until maybe 1 or 2 years later when Grinding came out. Now, I was in middle school when Grinding came out. And let me tell you something, that beat went platinum on every lunch table in America. Maybe not in your school, but in the South, everybody at the lunch table was doing that Grinding beat because it was something new. We ain't never heard it before. Also, it was like these two brothers from VA rapping on a Pharrell beat. And you got to think, back then, to be on a Pharrell beat was crazy because Pharrell was everywhere. But one thing that stood out was that these dudes can flow. And ever since then, whether it was the Re-Up Game mixtapes or Hell Have No Fury, I've always stayed close to what the Clipse was doing. Even when they eventually broke off and Pusha decided to go solo, I always kept up more so what Pusha was doing, I guess because he was, you know, rolling with Kanye, who is one of my favorite artists, even though, you know, he kind of went off the deep end these last couple of months. I kept up with Pusha and I like Pusha's progression as an artist. Malice, you know, he changed his name to No Malice, and you know, he was still releasing music, but he was just on another wave. And you got to respect that you know, they still kept that bond, and you know, to be able to return all these years later and deliver a project as solid as this one, man, it's crazy. All right, so first I want to get into the production. Pharrell did his thing. I know a lot of people are missing that Neptune sound with Chad or whatever. He even had a Malice even had a line on the project where he said, ain't no more Neptune, so peace Saturn. And a lot of people had doubts because I'm gonna be honest with you, these last couple of years, even though Pharrell has been like cooking up, he's been doing this thing. These collection of beats are probably the hardest beats that I've heard from Pharrell in a long time. And that's not to say what he's been doing has been whack, but this right here sounds like a return to form. It sounds like he went into one of those folders that he probably had from the 90s and pulled out some drums from there, because the way some of these tracks hitting, maybe it is the mix, I don't know, but Pharrell did his thing from top to bottom. I mean, we talking about songs like Chains and Whips, which features Kendrick Lamar, Crazy Beat, Mike Tyson, Blow to the Face. Dog, the drums on that record, stop playing. But man, so be it. By the grace of God, so far ahead, Pharrell was really in his bag on this project. And it sounded like maybe it was the environment that they were in. You know, I heard that they did a lot of the recording over in Paris at the Louis Vuitton HQ. And, you know, they would have people passing through the offices. There would be work going on around them. So maybe that contributed to the sound sounding so big. But man, Pharrell really did his thing. And I don't think there's a worry as far as like just because he doesn't have Chad, that Neptune sound is really going anywhere, because I feel like Pharrell embodies that. He's been doing it long enough. You got to think he's been making music since he was a teenager. They've been making music since they were teenagers. So for them to get to this point from, you know, seeing out their vision from when they was young and getting to this point now and still performing at the top of their game is yet again crazy. All right, so let's get into the rapping. Pusha T and Malice both did their thing. They both came with their A game. They both had quotable lines. Pusha T's style right now, I would say, is mirroring Biggie. Maybe he's channeling Biggie throughout this project, but there's so many times where he was in the pocket of a Jay-Z, a Nas, a Biggie. I even heard some AZ through there, some influence, but the cadences, the rhyme patterns, the flows, it all was very reminiscent of 90s hip hop. And Malice was just in his bag, period. Every song he had a line from it that made you kind of sit up and be like, like he said one line, he said, Me and my circle divide the pie. We call that long division. And you know, pi 3.14, you know, whatever, it keeps going. But it's just little stuff like that, right? Where it's like, okay, yeah, that's cool. He even had a line on one record. It was witty, but he was like something something something, hands on the 3 to 9, crossing state lines, diddy dum. And you know, it's like you visualize it, you're like, oh yeah, he's trafficking stuff across state lines, but he's making sure he's looking as normal as possible, like diddy dum. Like, it's witty stuff like that in a record that really make me appreciate the lyricism in it, because you know, he's painting this picture for you, and that's something that I feel like we've been missing a lot in hip-hop, the way that an artist can paint a picture. Let's go back to Biggie. Growing up, I love Biggie Smalls because no matter what he was rapping, when he would rap it, you could see it in your head. Like, I remember the first time I heard Ready to Die, and hearing that album transported me to Brooklyn in 94. You know, I wasn't there physically, but the way he would rap, the way he would describe things, the way he would, you know, flow in and out of pocket, it would just put you in that feeling of being in Brooklyn. Jay-Z, the same thing, right? When I listen to like Reasonable Doubt, or even a record like The Dynasty, I don't know, that record just reminds me of New York a lot. But Malice and Push, they're doing their thing, and I think we have to include them in that, you know, that upper echelon of rap, because let's be real, bro, Malice did not have a whack verse on this project. Push didn't either, but I felt like Malice definitely came way harder than Push. Pause. But I really do think that Malice did his thing on this project. Now, my favorite songs on this project, easily So Be It, Mike Tyson Blow to the Face. The record after Mike Tyson Blow to the Face, I don't know the name of it. I didn't look that up, but I think it's like, what, EBITDA, whatever that stands for. That record is crazy. That record should have been longer. For real, we need the extended version of that. You need to throw a verse on the end or something, or give it to Jay-Z. Let him throw a verse on the end, because that sounds like Elite, Louis Vuitton, HQ, Dope Boy, Two Step. I can't explain it, but that record is amazing. It reminds you of like vintage Neptunes when you hear it. But by the grace of God, all these records, man, I really don't have a favorite. It's hard for me to just pinpoint one, but if I had to, Mike Tyson Blow to the Face. The drums. That's all I got to say. The drums. If you listen to that project on some real good headphones, Mike Tyson Blow to the Face is one of the ones. Like, okay, this is Elite's Dope Boy type raps. The beat for Let God Sort 'Em Out is crazy too. The way that it switched at the end and Nas come in rapping. And you know, a record that it didn't catch me immediately. I liked it, but I didn't love it immediately. FICO grew on me. Like you said, the line I just said about the diddy dum, yeah. FICO grew on me after about 2 or 3 more listens. I was like, okay, I'm loving the pocket of this record. So FICO is another one of those, but I can't really choose a favorite, man. To be honest, that'd be too hard. The entire project is a solid body of work. Another touch that I liked on the album was the DJ Clue ad libs. Took me back to those early 2000s. You'll get a mixtape, DJ Clue, Cluminati. You know what I'm saying? Like, it really took me back to like the early days where you would get mixtapes from DBS Sounds, or you would download them from the internet, the DJ screaming all over them. But it brings you back to, again, the Clipse paying homage to hip hop. This project is like a homage to hip hop. Whether you got Pusha T paying homage by using Biggie's flow, or you know, them having ad liver on a record. You know, you got Nas on the record, or you're referencing certain things either it's from New York or from the South. The Clipse pay homage to hip hop with this album. And you know, a lot of people gonna try to just overlook it and be like, oh, it's just all they doing is talk about selling drugs. All they doing. I don't look at it like that. Is what you're listening to is somebody tell a story. It's storytelling. Hip hop is entertainment. Are you not entertained? So in conclusion, yes, this is a classic album. In conclusion, yes, it was worth the wait. In conclusion, yes, the production is crazy. In conclusion, yes, Pusha T is giving you some of his best verses. Malice returns with some of his best verses. There was no focus on a lot of beef on this project. You didn't hear you know whose name on this project because I know people were listening. Um, but this project really just focused on telling a story, two brothers, giving you their life experiences, even having records like the Birds Don't Sing to start off the record, which is a very heavy record where they're talking about the passing of their parents. It's a very vulnerable record, especially from the Clipse. You don't really hear the Clipse getting this vulnerable, right? It's kind of in the same vein of Jay-Z with 444. That was something new that we ain't never heard from Jay-Z, right? So with this Clipse project, I feel like it's exactly that. It's a classic, and I think it's gonna take time for people who just aren't up on the Clips. Maybe it takes time to grow on them, but for those that get it, but for those that, for like myself, it started in middle school up to now, right? It's like it was worth the wait. And I think that having Pharrell produce the entire project, it don't get no more hip hop than having one producer produce the entire project. Just how it used to be in back in the day, where you had the DJ, you had the rapper. Most of the time, the DJ was the producer, and they sat down and they banged out a body of work. I feel like that's when you get the best out of an artist. And congratulations. I know VA is proud of him. VA is proud of the Clips. I say the Clips. VA is proud of Clips, like Atlanta is proud of Outkast. You get what I mean? Like they have their legends, and it is definitely well deserved. And if you haven't heard the project, start to finish, banger. I promise you. Especially if you came up listening to Clipse. But yeah, man, it's the kid Ríez. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, make sure y'all be safe, stay carefree, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace.